Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. 1923 is over, and we still don't know how Teonna Rainwater connects to Yellowstone's Dutton family. Teonna Rainwater's, Amina Neve's, story never connected to the Duttons in 1923, even though the show is over. Since the beginning, the cast of 1923 has been split in two, telling two almost completely unconnected stories. The main focus of the show was on the Dutton family tree, their battle for the Yellowstone Ranch, and Alexandra's, Julia Schletfer, and Spencer's, Brandon Sklinner, journeys home. The other half has focused on Teonna's harrowing experience with a Native American boarding school and the many injustices she faced from people like Father Renaud, Sebastian Roche, and Marshall Kent, Jamie McShane. For the longest time, it seemed like Teonna's story would intersect with the Duttons at some point. Teonna is, after all, an ancestor of Thomas Rainwater, Jill Birmingham in Yellowstone, and 1923 is a prequel series meant to show how all of Yellowstone's parts fell into place. Another Yellowstone spin-off show, 1883, ended with Spotted Eagle, Graham Greene, telling James Dutton, Tim McGraw, that his family would lose the ranch in 7 generations. However, the ending of 1923 Season 2 didn't have such a connection, and Teonna's story never brought her in contact with any Duttons at all. As the ending of 1923 already showed, Teonna's journey from Montana to Texas never intersected with the Duttons. There was a close call where Teonna almost met Spencer while he was traveling through Texas, but they never actually saw each other. Really, the only connection between Teonna and the Duttons at all in 1923 was Marshall Mamie Fawcett, Jennifer Carpenter, as the law woman had both Teonna and Spencer in her custody at different times. That's still a full degree of separation, though, and for all we know, Teonna doesn't even know who the Duttons are. There wasn't even a hint that Teonna would eventually interact with the Duttons after 1923. Once Teonna's trial was finished, and she was a free woman again, 2 Spears, Dudgy Hall, sent her off to California, not Montana. Without Pete Plenty Clouds, Jeremy Ghana, and runs his horse, Michael Spears, Teonna has no reason to go back to Montana, either. Aside from knowing that Teonna's descendant would eventually be important, her entire story in 1923 was an unrelated story that had no connective tissue to the Duttons. Even though 1923 is over, there is still a chance for Taylor Sheridan to connect Teonna's story to the Duttons. One of the many upcoming Yellowstone spin-off shows, aptly titled 1944, could revisit the Rainwater family's connection to the Duttons. 1944 takes place just 20 years after the ending of 1923, which is both close enough for Teonna to still be around and distant enough for her to have a reason to return to Montana. It may take an entirely separate show, but 1944 could easily tie Teonna to the main story of 1923. There's also a chance that Teonna's story won't directly connect to the Duttons in 1944. Teonna has to continue the Rainwater lineage and have a child at some point. Otherwise, Thomas wouldn't be around in Yellowstone. 1944 could follow Teonna's child as they return to Montana and their ancestral home, which would provide an opportunity for them to meet some of the Duttons. It would also be a chance to flesh out the Rainwater family tree a bit more and give Teonna some closure after her traumatizing journey in 1923. The dust has settled on 1923, Season 1 anyway, and while fans were left with plenty to chew on, one question remains conspicuously unanswered. How exactly does Teonna Rainwater connect to the Dutton family in the larger Yellowstone universe? If you've been watching closely, you already know that Teonna's storyline feels like a different show altogether. While Jacob and Cara Dutton are fending off sheep herders, mining barons, and personal tragedies in Montana, Teonna's narrative plays out hundreds of miles away, under the brutal thumb of a religious boarding school on a Native American reservation. Her harrowing journey is raw, gut-wrenching, and necessary, but also curiously isolated from the cattle-branding world of the Duttons. So what gives? Let's start by acknowledging the obvious. Teonna Rainwater shares a surname with Thomas Rainwater, the composed and strategic chairman of the Broken Rock Reservation in Yellowstone. And while the 1923 writers haven't confirmed it, most fans are working under the assumption that Teonna is Thomas's ancestor, perhaps his grandmother or great-grandmother. But that only deepens the mystery, because here's the real kicker. Why introduce Teonna in 1923 at all, if she doesn't intersect with the Duttons in some meaningful way? Taylor Sheridan doesn't do things accidentally. Every line, every dusty stare into the distance, every gunfight, and tragic loss, it's all there for a reason. So the lack of an explicit tie-in is, frankly, suspicious. We're left with breadcrumbs. In the final episodes of 1923 Season 1, Teonna escapes her captors, flees into the rugged wilderness, and finds some measure of safety with Hank and his son Pete. But safety is fleeting in this world. The finale hints that her journey is just beginning, a flight from persecution that will eventually lead her north, possibly to Montana, where the Duttons are entrenched in their own war for survival. And here's where the theory mill starts turning. What if Teonna does cross paths with the Duttons, just not in Season 1? There's a strong chance Season 2 of 1923 will bring their worlds closer. Jacob Dutton, still reeling from the attacks orchestrated by Donald Whitfield, might find himself negotiating with or fighting against tribal forces as the range war intensifies. Could Teonna, or perhaps Pete, if her story ends tragically, become the bridge between indigenous struggles and the expanding frontier ambitions of the Duttons? There's also the tantalizing question of land. Land is the soul of Yellowstone, the prize everyone's fighting over, from John Dutton's battles in the modern series to Jacob and Kara's defense of the ranch in 1923. Teonna's story, rooted in the theft of culture, language, and territory, is about land too, but from a very different perspective. If the Duttons unknowingly settle or defend land that was stolen from Teonna's people, that creates a long, painful thread that ties the Rainwaters and Duttons together, generation by generation. Now, here's where it gets poetic. In Yellowstone, Thomas Rainwater often finds himself in moral conflict, trying to reclaim land that his people lost, knowing full well that it was taken long before the Duttons were born. If Teonna is indeed his ancestor, then her suffering becomes his foundation. Her resistance, her will to survive against a system designed to erase her, echoes in every decision Thomas makes. He is her legacy. And what if there's more than just parallel storytelling here? Imagine a scenario where Teonna, in fleeing her past, finds refuge in Montana. Imagine she meets someone, maybe a Dutton, maybe someone who works for them. Perhaps a friendship is forged or an uneasy alliance. Maybe, just maybe, she helps the Duttons in a moment of need, planting a seed of uneasy gratitude. Or maybe it goes the other way. The Duttons, unknowingly complicit in the suffering her people endure, become yet another symbol of the betrayal she's trying to outrun. It's not far-fetched. Sheridan's universe is built on dualities: beauty and brutality, heritage and hypocrisy, survival and sacrifice. The Duttons have never been pure heroes. Their legacy is blood-stained, complex, and often morally compromised. Teonna's journey adds another dimension to that tapestry. Her presence in 1923 forces viewers to confront the historical realities that so many Westerns gloss over. It's not just cowboys and cattle, it's genocide, assimilation, and resistance. And even if she never steps foot on the Dutton Ranch, her story reframes it. It forces us to see the land the Duttons fight so hard to protect as borrowed, if not outright stolen. That alone might be the point. Still, fans are craving more. We want a scene, a single moment, where Teonna and a Dutton exchange words. A look, a decision that ripples across generations. Will Season 2 deliver that? There are hints that Sheridan is building towards something big. The introduction of new characters like Father Renaud, the school's sadistic priest, and the brutal Pinkerton enforcers suggests that Teonna's enemies are powerful, and their defeat might require unexpected alliances. What better alliance than with a family known for doing whatever it takes to survive? And what if Teonna and the Duttons are destined not for friendship, but conflict? That would make her arc even more tragic, but also more true to life. Real history isn't clean, it's messy, painful, and unfinished, just like the frontier. So here we are, 1923 in the rearview, still asking, how does Teonna Rainwater connect to the Duttons?